to the cloud. Okay, and webinar is starting.
Estamos empezando el webinario.
My hope is that everybody who is joining as participants are in the meeting by now. The numbers are still going up, so I'm just going to wait a second.
Los números siguen subiendo. Espero que todos que están reuniéndose en la reunión están en la reunión ahora. Voy a esperar un segundo.
Okay, well, it seems that people have leveled off, so we'll get started. Thank you for joining this session of practice for the Diocesan Convention. The practice session will pretty much mirror the procedures that we will follow on the day of convention. I just got a note saying that there was difficulty getting into the webinar, so I'm just going to keep an eye on the numbers, and it looks like we have leveled off again.
Gracias por reunirse a esta reunión. Esta es nuestra práctica para nuestra convención y los procedimientos de hoy van a seguir muy parecidos a los procedimientos de la convención. Acabo de escuchar que hay alguna dificultad en reunirse a esta reunión, pero parece que los números ya estén nivelados.
Okay, so as you can hear, there is interpretation available. We have interpretation in Spanish, and we also have interpretation in American Sign Language. I'm going to go ahead and get the interpretation started. When you see the little globe pop up on the bottom of your screen, you could click the globe and choose the language in which you'd like to hear the proceedings of this meeting.
Como ustedes han podido escuchar, hay interpretación disponible en esta reunión. Voy a empezar con la interpretación. Enseguida ustedes van a ver un globo terráqueo abajo en la pantalla. Ustedes pueden elegir, hacer clic en este globo y ustedes van a poder elegir el idioma preferido para escuchar la reunión en su idioma preferido.
Thanks, Louise.
Gracias, Luis.
Okay, and I may ask for some assistance from a co-host because I'm trying to start the interpretation and it's not going for me.
Voy a pedir un poco de apoyo por nuestras colegas aquí porque yo estoy tratando de iniciar la interpretación y no funciona para mí.
Let me try one more time.
Voy a tratar una vez más.
Okay, hold on one moment. I'm gonna
Espérense un momento.
okay. Sophie, I'm gonna see if I can switch over to you,
Sofía, voy a tratar de cambiarme a usted.
and maybe you might be able to see me.
Tal vez usted pueda ver.
I appreciate your patience, folks. Thank you.
Aprecio su paciencia. Gracias.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, thank you, Sophie. So, the session's being recorded and it's going to be made available for replay. And just so you know, this is a Zoom webinar. You will not be able to turn on your audio or your video. A Zoom webinar is different from a standard Zoom meeting in that only speakers and presenters have the ability to be seen and to be heard unless you're called upon and unmuted. If you object to being recorded, you may want to leave the webinar and view the recording when it becomes available. Just so you know, we will be using some important features during our practice and also at convention. On Zoom, we'll be using the hand raise, the Q&A, and the chat. And we'll also be voting during using an app called vPoll. We'll have the opportunity to practice all of this during this session. So in order for us to kind of give you the basics to all of these functions, we have this lovely vintage video to show you that has all of the features that we will be using at convention described. And I'm going to ask Jen if she would launch that video.
This video will fully explain 3 important things: how to vote, how to be recognized to speak, and how to communicate with staff on official convention business for this virtual convention. We will use 2 separate ways to vote. Let's start with Zoom polling, which is basically the equivalent of voting by acclamation. Whenever there comes a point during convention to have a vote by acclamation, an announcement will be made saying, "We are about to vote by acclamation." And in that moment, you will see a Zoom poll pop up on your screen. When this happens, simply read the question, select the answer, and then click Submit. These results will be shared fairly quickly after answering. Now let's talk about vPolling, which is basically the equivalent of voting by ballot. This is a completely separate process and requires a totally different logon on a completely separate website. It will be easiest to use a different device like a phone or a tablet to access vPoll. However, you can also open up another window in your browser like this. Make sure you don't close the Zoom webinar. Just minimize it while you vote. To access this secure logon, you should have received an email with all the necessary logon information. First, click the link for vPolling. Then, the unique access code for convention. Follow the prompts to fill in your name, ID number, and select the polling session. Click Submit, and you are now logged on. Once on the page, you will see a page that says something similar to "Question will be broadcast shortly." That is because the poll is not yet open for voting. Just like we did with Zoom polling, we will make an announcement saying, "We are about to vote by ballot. In just a moment, the ballot will be open." At this time, you are to either find the second browser window on your computer or have your second device logged into vPoll and ready to go. And then you will see the active and open ballot for what you are supposed to be voting. If you don't see the active ballot displayed on vPoll, don't worry. Just simply refresh your screen and your ballot should then be displayed after that. Again, simply read the question on your ballot, make your selection, and then click Submit. Since this type of voting is slightly more complicated and requires going in and out of Zoom or using a second device, more time will be given to ensure your vote is cast properly and counted. Because more time is used for vPoll, however, unlike Zoom polling, results will not be immediate. Convention is not just about voting, though. Delegates still have seat, voice, and vote. This leads us to explaining how you can be recognized if you choose to speak. The platform for this convention is Zoom Webinar. As a webinar attendee, you don't have the ability to mute and unmute yourself to speak. The default setting is that all attendees are muted, and you must be granted permission to speak by the host. For this convention, the official way to be recognized to speak is by using the raise hand function in Zoom. If you would like to address the entire convention, simply click the raise hand button. Once recognized, you will need to unmute yourself to be heard by others. Zoom does keep track of the order in which people have raised their hands. The host will virtually lower your hand once you have had the opportunity to speak. Last, let me explain the functionality of the Q&A. The Q&A is to be used for official convention business only. If you would like to speak to a member of the diocesan staff, or you're having issues that need to be addressed, or if you would like to submit an amendment to a resolution, please use the Q&A. To post an amendment, you must use the exact wording you want to propose. For all non-business, like requesting prayers or participating in virtual worship, please feel free to use the chat function. More information and all convention materials can be found on the diocesan website. Thank you for serving as a delegate to the 185th Diocesan Convention.
Thank you. And I think we can all have an opportunity to practice some of the functions that were shared in the video a little bit ago. One of them was and I don't see the raised hand anymore. But I would love it if we could practice hand raising. So if you would like to be recognized to speak by the bishop, the president of convention, you're asked to raise hands. That button is at the bottom of your screen if you're on a desktop or a larger machine. And I would love it if you guys would just raise your hands just so I could see you. We would call on people in the order in which their hands are raised. In my order, I see Paula Harris, I see Sandra Janowski, I see Marilyn, Fran, Katie Thompson, Lois Garland Patterson, Peg, Ann McIntosh, Andrea Meissen, Ted Carrison, the list goes on. I see Joseph and Michael and Warren and Melissa and Terry, Lon, Carol, John, David. So we're all looking pretty good here. And I saw that you also found the way for you to personalize your hand with different complexions. So very good. So once you are have your hand raised and you're recognized to speak, the host will give you the opportunity to unmute yourself so you can speak. And once you've spoken, you can lower your hand. So if you'd practice lowering your hand now, that would be terrific. And if you're unable to lower your hand, then we will have the host help you with that. And we have no more hands raised, so very good. Okay, so seems like you got the raised hand function going. Q&A. As the video said, Q&A will be used for proposing amendments to resolutions or to ask questions about convention business-related issues. If you want to enter an amendment, then you're, as the video said, going to be asked to use the exact wording in the Q&A. And as we said, the Q&A can also be used for asking business-related questions. So practice Q&A. You can locate the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you click the button and type your business-related question or your proposed amendment into the box that pops up, you can hit enter to submit, and then your submission would be seen and responded to by the staff. So I see one question in there. Aha, testing, 1, 2, 3. We see business-related question. Aha. Okay. There's also the option for me to you'll either receive an answer live or you'll get an answer typewritten. And Macintosh, I'm answering your question live. Same for you, Lois Garland Patterson. Fran, also getting a live answer. Okay, there's a question about where do I find the resolutions? The resolutions are posted to the website, and Louisa McKelliston just posted a link. I think we can copy that over to the chat. Warren Sinek would like to propose an amendment to the resolution to add that all Episcopalians are cool. Fantastic. Okay, and a live question from Sandra. How do I vote? We will be getting into voting shortly after we finish this section about the Zoom functions. Okay, and I think we can move along just a little bit. It seems that you guys are adept at the chat. A number of chat messages came through already. But again, chat is where you would greet one another, you know, have any conversations that are not convention business related. You can even use it to ask for prayer. So if you wouldn't mind just practicing by, you know, entering something in the chat, you probably, yeah, we would be looking at chats that everyone could see. So I think it's going to be set up so everybody can see whatever it is that you chat. Very good. I see a couple of new messages. Hello. So the chat. So that's that. Moving along, if you have further questions about, you know, the functionality of the features, then, you know, please feel free to send us a question and we can answer it during this session. And I think now is probably a good time to move over to vPoll. I'm not quite sure. Can I see the next slide, Sophie? Okay, not quite yet. So there's going to be some pre-convention support available to you. You're all here, so I'm hoping that you've received your vPoll credentials. If you have not, you should email Rebecca Elfing Roberts at the address rroberts@episcopalchicago.org. Rebecca can resend you your credentials for VPOL. What else? And if you have other like technology related questions, you can ask Rebecca that as well. I see a hand raised from Jen Boyle Tucker.
So there was a Q&A question about how Spanish language Q&A will work.
You know, that is a really good question. I think we're going to have to engage our interpreters for assistance with that, or we do have in our group folks that do speak Spanish. So I think what we'll need to do is make sure that one of our Spanish speaking colleagues is monitoring the Q&A as well. Thanks for that question. Okay, so moving on from pre-convention support. So you should have your credentials. You'll reach out to Rebecca if you don't have them yet, or if you need to receive them again. The Zoom webinar link for Saturday's convention is going to be emailed to you today. And on Saturday, technology assistance will be available. Assistance, you can log in beginning at 7, but assistance will be available from 8 a.m. through the time convention is adjourned. And you can use technical support for help logging on to Zoom webinar, for how to use Zoom features, and also for the VPOL electronic voting platform. Okay, we can move on. As you know, this is a virtual convention that we're having, and in 2020 at the 183rd convention, the first time we had a virtual convention, we adopted a set of rules of order that govern a virtual convention. And I think it's probably a good time to review some of the rules of order for virtual convention. You should know that the parliamentarian at convention will also be reviewing the rules of order for virtual convention, but it's probably a good time for us to go through it here. So to participate in convention, members must have access to the internet with a device, a laptop, a tablet, a smartphone, or a desktop computer that allows for connection to the internet platform, and a unique email address to receive convention login information and links to the voting platform. Members who do not have access to a device or internet can request support and assistance from the convention planning team, who will assist to the fullest extent possible. All members shall receive an email no later than 3 days before each convention that includes the time of the meeting, the URL for a convention, and codes to connect to the meeting, and the phone number and access codes that members need to participate by telephone as an alternate and backup to the internet audio connection. Also, access information including credentials to the voting platform as well. A member, however, cannot participate solely by telephone and must be connected to the electronic platform via the internet on their device. Technology support will be available, however, each member is responsible for their audio and internet connections. Okay, internet meeting service availability will begin at least 2 hours before the start of the meeting. Technology support will be available, but each member is responsible for their audio and internet connections. No action of convention will be invalidated on the grounds that the loss of or poor quality of individual members' connections prevented participation. Members need to identify themselves using the registration form link by name, congregation, and order in order to sign on to the Zoom platform. And since the celebration of the Eucharist is not possible, morning prayer will be celebrated instead. The quorum will be established through the completion of the registration form. And to post in writing a question related to the business of convention, a member must use the Q&A feature. The chat may be used for non-business postings and will be disabled during balloting. And voting will take place using an electronic confidential voting platform, also known as vPoll. Okay, convention agenda. Let's flip there. Next slide. So check-in will be available from 7 till 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., the quorum will close and we will have a service of morning prayer. And then convention business should convene somewhere in the neighborhood of 9:20 to 9:30 and run through roughly 12:30. Those times are approximate just because we don't know what's going to actually happen during the proceedings. We'll resume after lunch, hopefully around 1 o'clock, to continue convention business. And if you have questions about that schedule, please feel free to be in touch. Okay. We can move into a little voting practice session with Rebecca and Scott.
Hello, all. Thank you for being at this practice session. So hopefully by this point you have already taken out a second device, or you have your a separate browser window open and you have navigated to the vpoll.mobi site. I'll give you a minute to do that now if you haven't. And we have 2 questions that we will practice with vPoll. Thank you, Scott. You should have all received an email from me yesterday evening with your credentials. Those will be the same credentials on Saturday, but we will use them now as well. So assuming folks have found their way, they have entered in the access code for this year.
We have 19 people so far out of 28, so not bad.
Excellent. You've chosen the practice polling session when you've logged in. Why don't we go ahead, Scott, and do our first question for the group, which is choose your favorite decade. I will say we have used a lot of these questions over the years that we have been doing virtual conventions. And the original version of this question included the 1950s and didn't include the 2010s. I don't know if is that what you call them, the 2010s, the 10s, the teens. And anyway, it's been updated since, but I will invite people, if you haven't already, to start casting your votes. Note that it says you can select up to 2, which means you can select 1, or you can select 2. This will be the same as when we vote for candidates. There you will have the choice to, in certain of the votes, to select up to 2 or select up to 3. It's your choice if you will vote for 1 or 2 or 3. Go ahead, Chris.
We have a question that the person cannot submit because they can't select a polling session. There's no drop-down menu. They refresh.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe, yeah, that would be my recommendation, would be to refresh or, yeah, try it again and start, start over.
Okay.
So we do have 21 people that have voted. So it is up and running. 25 people have logged on.
Okay. Somebody got a message. I think Safari can't open the page because the server can't be found.
Ooh, okay.
And you're putting in vpoll.mobi. I'm gonna try it on my Safari.
Yeah, it's Safari on my phone and I'm in. Is it? Well, I don't know if maybe you're in an office. Is there a firewall with your router?
That's possible. This is why we practice. And so it's helpful. A lot of folks use a phone, a separate device, which probably won't have the same firewalls that like an office computer might, or even a home firewall. But yeah, trying a separate device if you have one, an iPad or a phone, or a separate web browser might be helpful. Interesting. And so Sandra, you're
That's
saying
right. Yeah.
on Safari, you put in the vpoll.mobi, and that's what it gave you on Safari. Do you have another browser on your phone? Do you have Google or Google Chrome, or that's the one I have. I don't know what the others. Can you get Mozilla on your phone? I don't know what the other browsers are.
Yeah, someone's
Michael
trying on an
always-
iPad as well.
Yeah. Which is also Safari, but yeah, I'm using my iPhone and I'm on Safari too. It's bizarre.
We have 4. Can't get in either, and I'm trying an iPad. And is it that you're not, it sounds like we're not seeing, folks aren't seeing the landing page. Yeah, see if you can find another device, or if you're on this Zoom on a computer. Let's see, here's another person who got it on Safari. There isn't, Scott, do you have a recommended browser or anything? I have found vPoll to be accessible from most browsers and devices.
Correct. Yeah. I tend to operate vPoll using Chrome from my laptop computer, but yeah, I always have my phone logged on as well, just so I can test it on my end and make sure it's working. And that's Safari because it's an iPhone. So yeah, 2 different browsers and they're up on both. But I've seen it can be used on Firefox, Microsoft Internet Explorer. It's really kind of device and browser agnostic.
All right. So if you can put it in,
So I'm not sure. Yeah,
let's see. So, Sandra, why don't you, and is it Michael? I was also going to tell folks, did you know that you can rename yourself if you need? There's, I think, usually sort of on your video, where you could turn video tab, there's a place where you can 3 dots, change your name. But for those of you who are having a hard time, send me an email and maybe we can get on a phone call, or we can get onto a separate Zoom, like a Zoom meeting, and we can talk back and forth about troubleshooting that. But it looks like we have 25 votes cast, and I have 26 attendees at the moment. And so, oh, great. Lon Meyer says they use the QR code. If you didn't see the QR code in the email, that might be an easy way to take you right in. But when you go in, yeah, you put that access code in and then your own information. Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I was just wondering if Scott could possibly share his screen to show where on the landing page you enter that code, because somebody pointed out there's a login spot, there are some different things.
Good question. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Let me see here just a second. Are you guys seeing my browser?
We're seeing
Okay,
your
great. So I just
browser.
have Google Chrome. And again, I go to the VPoll website, which is VPOLL period MOBI. That's the VPoll homepage. And on the homepage, you do not want to click either log in or Vistacom login. That's if you're going to be an administrator running it. Rather, in this little section, join a meeting. And it says prompts you to enter the access code. This is where you enter your access code, DIOCHI24. It is not case sensitive, so if you do a little d and a little c, that's fine. It is all one word, no spacing. So DIOCHI24. Then you click the join button. And then this is your login screen. So if you are using the QR code, it would take you directly to this page. If you're not, then you have to do all the other steps of opening your browser, entering the VPoll website in your address bar, vpoll.mobi, and then entering the access code right here in the home page. Now, also, too, if you enter your wrong credentials, you'll get a message saying, invalid user credentials, please check. So for instance, I'm entering the wrong information. If you see this, that's because you entered possibly the wrong ID number, or you typed your name incorrectly, or maybe you typed your name incorrectly. We have it wrong on our end, so we may have to check that. Like maybe we spelled it incorrectly in our roster or database of names. But if you do put in everything correctly, you should then be prompted at this point, since we've already launched the question. As soon as you submit, you should see the question pop up to enter your choices. And since I have everyone's attention, just to mention, to select a choice, you simply tap on your answer choice. If you wish to change your mind, you can just tap on an answer choice again to deselect it, and then select something else, and then click submit. Oops, well, I hit the backspace and I kind of got myself out, but there you go. Are we good? Should I stop sharing? Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. For now, again, we can do some troubleshooting as we need separately. But why don't we go ahead and share, we'll close the question, close the poll.
Okay. Do we want to broadcast the results and share them for practice?
Let's not broadcast them.
Okay.
We'll have Sophie share the presenter screen.
Okay.
Which is also, you all, we're happy to practice, have you practice voting, but there is a piece of this that is helping us as well prepare for Saturday. And so we're really grateful that you're bearing with us as we practice these pieces. So here you will see the results of our poll. It appears that most folks liked the 90s, followed closely by the 80s. The 2000s seem to be a troublesome time for this group. So this way of showing the results sort of quickly after we take the poll, this is something that we will do when we vote for resolutions. When we ask for a yay or nay vote, we will then show the results this way. When we do our elections for the candidates for governing bodies, those results will be shared at a later time in the agenda. And so just know that when you do those votes, we then will present them at a later time so that we can take into account all the pieces of, there being different positions and making sure that we're following our canons in terms of what elects an individual to one of those roles.
Hey, Rebecca, I'm looking in chat. Somebody asked, can you take a picture of the QR code with your phone? The answer is no. You don't really take a picture of the QR code. You just focus your camera on the QR code. And when you do it, once it kind of picks up the QR code, it will kind of put like a border around it. And then below the QR code itself will be a link, like it'll pop up like a little button, which is a link to the VPoll site in which you enter your login credentials. So you don't take a photo, you just kind of focus on it.
Thanks, Scott. Why don't we try, we have one more question to practice, and why don't we do one more right now, and we'll kind of see, it'll be a speed round. How quickly can everyone answer the question, and we'll get those totals tabulated. So I can see the votes coming in. Good work. If for some reason it doesn't seem like the new question is loading, always just refresh your screen, refresh your browser, find that little circle with the arrow and do it again. Let's see, 13,
Yes,
14.
good point.
Good work, we're almost there. I'm seeing 22 votes cast. I believe we had 25 or 26 on the last one. And you should know on Saturday as well, we take a quorum at 9 a.m. based on sort of who's logged in and who answers a quorum question. But in any given vote, obviously not everyone may be available to vote. Similarly to if we were in a ballroom, someone may have stepped out and not cast a ballot and come back in. So we will always be tracking how many people have responded. And it's always possible you could miss it or not. So please be paying attention throughout the proceedings so that you can participate fully. I think we can consider this question closed. We're short a few from our last one, but that may be a few folks that have chosen not to participate. Here we are. It's like a lot of folks love a good stuffing or dressing, although we could have the conversation about how they're different. But good work. See. Looks like a few folks. So again, if you're having issues, I think Sandra and Michael, I have you on my agenda for this afternoon. We'll touch base and we'll figure something out. But I'm seeing sort of nothing else in the chat. And so I think we can be finished with our VPOL practice. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone else.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca and Scott. Just so you know, there are some materials that we have available to us to help everyone prepare for convention. We have hosted 3 sessions. There was a budget hearing, a candidate forum, so you could learn more about the candidates running for elected office. And then there was a hearing with discussions of all of the resolutions. All those meetings were recorded, and we should have the recordings posted to the website by today if they're not already up. Also, you should know that there are documents for your review as well. And those would be all of the resolutions, the budget, the nominations of all the candidates. Those are all up on the website presently in English and in Spanish. So feel free to take a look at them. There will be tomorrow also a edition of the newsletter that will give you access and links to everything, just so you know, you can access the materials that you need before convention begins on Saturday. And also you can feel free to be in touch with us if you have any questions about anything leading up to convention. Rebecca gave you her contact information. I can put my contact information in the chat as well. But yeah, definitely, you know, feel free to reach out if there's anything else that you have questions about or need support with leading into convention. We once again will have ASL interpretation as well as Spanish interpretation. So feel free to make use of those if you should need them. And I will just say that here's another opportunity to ask questions. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those into the Q&A so we can practice once again that Q&A function if there are any additional questions. And thanks, Louisa, for dropping my email address into the chat. I see folks dropping off, and I don't see any questions coming up through the Q&A function. So I think we can consider this session over. Thank you for attending. Looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to be in touch. Thanks very much.